Robert Fuller is an American horse rancher and retired actor. In his 5 decades of television, Fuller became known for his deep, raspy voice and was familiar to television viewers throughout the 1960s and 1970s from his co-starring roles as Jess Harper and Cooper Smith on the popular 1960s Western series Laramie and Wagon Train, and was also well known for his role as Dr. Kelly Brackett in the 1970s medical drama Emergency. Early life. Fuller was born as Leonard Leroy Buddy Lee in Troy, New York, the only child of Betty Simpson, a dance instructor. Prior to Buddy's birth, Betty married Robert Simpson, Sr., a Naval Academy officer. The family moved to Key West, Florida, where Fuller took the name Robert Simpson, Jr. The early highlights of his life were acting and dancing. His parents owned a dancing school in Florida. His family also moved to Chicago, Illinois, where they lived for 1 year, before moving back to Florida. Fuller attended the Miami Military School for 5th and 6th grade, and Key West High School for 9th grade. He dropped out at age 14 due to the fact that he disliked school and wasn't doing well there. In 1950, when he was 16, he traveled with his family to Hollywood, California, where his first job was as a stuntman. He also worked at Grauman's Chinese Theater, beginning as a doorman and working his way up to assistant manager at 18. At the urging of friends, Fuller joined the Screen Actors Guild, embarked on a career in acting, and changed his name to Robert Fuller. Career. Fuller's first small role was in the 1952 film Above and Beyond. This part led to a few small roles, one of which was in I Love Melvin. In 1953, he again had another minor part in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which starred Marilyn Monroe. But Fuller's career was put on hold for service in the United States Army. He did a tour of duty and career and returned to the United States in 1955. Though he considered giving up on acting, Fuller, at the suggestion of his best friend, Chuck Courtney, attended Richard Boone's acting classes. Boone suggested that Fuller study under the tutelage of Sanford Meisner at New York City's neighborhood playhouse. Fuller landed a small role in Friendly Persuasion, where he worked with his future Laramie co-star John Smith and another close friend, Doug McClure. Director William Wyler suggested that Fuller grow sideburns for the role, and he obtained the part when he did so. In the 1956 episode, The Comeback, of the religion anthology series, Crossroads, Fuller played a former soldier. In the storyline, Don DeFore portrays the Reverend C. E. Stoney Jackson, who offers the spiritual insight to assist Lou Brissy to recover from his wounds sustained in World War II so that he can return to professional baseball. Grant Withers plays Coach Whitey Martin. Crossroads regular Robert Carson is cast as a coach in this episode. X-Brands portrays another baseball player. In 1957, Fuller was cast in his first major film role in Teenage Thunder. Also in 1957, Fuller starred in the science fiction film The Brain from Planet Arouse. Fuller portrayed a gruff military pilot in the box office dud Megaforce. Fuller became an immensely popular character actor, guest starring in dozens of television series, including Buckskin, The Big Valley, Official Detective, The Californians, The Restless Guns, The Lawless Years, U.S. Marshal, Panic, M Squad, The Adventures of Rin Tin Tin, and Lux Playhouse. He also appeared in the series Strange Intruder as a villain who dies in the 3rd episode. In 1959, he played a character accused of arson in Broderick Crawford's syndicated series, Highway Patrol. He also made appearances in ABC's The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp and Mickey Spillin's syndicated Mike Hammer. He made a cameo appearance in the film Maverick. On February 24, 1959, Fuller guest starred in the episode Blind as the Killer on NBC's Cimarron City television series. This appearance propelled him into a lead role 7 months later in Laramie, one of the comparatively few network programs set in Wyoming. Fuller plays Joe Cool, a young gunfighter seeking a reputation, who finds his target in Cimarron City Mayor Matt Rockford, played by George Montgomery. Cole temporarily blinds Rockford with glass from a broken whiskey bottle. The two are ultimately reconciled after each has had a chance to prove his courage. John Smith, Fuller's co-star on Laramie, was a regular in Cimarron City, and the two appear together briefly in this episode, which also features Dennis McCarthy as Doc Hodges, who successfully treats Rockford's eyes. In the summer of 1959, Fuller guest-starred as a young outlaw, Buck Harmon, in the episode The Friend, on the ABC, Warner Brothers Western series, Lawman. In the storyline, Harmon is estranged from his minister father, played by Robert F. Simon. When the outlaw gang comes into Laramie, Buck switches sides to help his old friend, Deputy Johnny McKay. In the shootout, Harmon is gunned down, but his father is spared. In 1959, Patrick Kelly called Fuller to his office to offer him an opportunity for a co-starring role opposite Academy Award winner Ray Milland, in the CBS detective series, Markham. However, Fuller quickly turned down the role because he wanted to be in westerns. He was David Dortfort's second choice for the role of Lorne Greene's youngest cocky, impish son, Little Joe Cartwright on NBC's Bonanza. But he lost the role to another young, unfamiliar actor, Michael Landon. About this same time, Fuller landed the co-starring role of Jess Harper on Laramie, which ran from 1959 to 1963. As Fuller was cast opposite another of his best friends, John Smith, Fuller was asked to do a screen test for the character of Slim Sherman, and John Smith had originally been cast as Jess Harper. Fuller insisted that he would be better cast as Harper, and after the screen test, he won the role of Jess, while Smith got the part of Slim. Laramie was eventually aired in more than 70 countries. On the set of Laramie, he met a young rising star, Julie London, who was 7 years Fuller's senior. While off camera, he met an established singer-songwriter, Bobby Troup, who was 15 years Fuller's senior, and would be best friends until Troup's death in 1999, almost 2 years before the death of London. In 2000, when Laramie ended its run, Fuller jumped to another western, Wagon Train, opposite John McIntyre, a veteran film actor, two-time guest star on Laramie, and a future star of The Virginian, Frank McGrath, and Terry Wilson. According to an August 17, 2009 interview on Screen and Beyond, Fuller was not brought into the show to replace Robert Horton in the role of the Wagon Train scout. He resembled Horton, and the two share the same birthday, but Horton is 9 years Fuller's senior. While Horton had worn a dark cowboy hat, Fuller usually wore a light one. Horton had already departed from the cast a season earlier, and McIntyre had carried the series for a year. Fuller stepped in the following year, where he remained with the series, which switched to ABC in 1962 until it ended its run after 2 additional seasons. Over the next 6 years, Fuller appeared in a handful of nondescript films. It seemed his career was stalling as the Western was slowly being retired from the American film industry. The one exception was his role as Van in Return of the Seven, which was a modest, if lackluster, sequel to The Magnificent Seven. In 1966, Fuller starred in the Western film Incident at Phantom Hill. That same year, he portrayed the ill-fated Western military captain William Judd Fetterman in the episode Massacre at Fort Phil Kearny, near Fort Phil Kearny in Wyoming of NBC's Bob Hope Presents the Chrysler Theater. His co-stars included Richard Egan, Phyllis Avery, Robert Pine, and Carol O'Connor. After producer Jack Webb saw Fuller in the movie The Hard Ride, he insisted that Fuller star in his new NBC medical drama, Emergency, which already starred legendary 1950s, 1960s singer and B-movie actress Julie London as head nurse Dixie McCall alongside her real-life husband, Bobby Troup, as Dr. Joe Early. Fuller was reluctant to play a doctor, but the persistent Webb gave him an opportunity to accept the role of head physician, Dr. Kelly Brackett. Fuller said in a 2009 interview with On Screen and Beyond that he twice politely turned down the role of Dr. Brackett. Webb then reminded Fuller that Western series had been repeatedly cancelled for the previous 5 years and that the genre was on the decline. The exceptions to that pattern were Michael Landon's Little House on the Prairie and to lesser extents David Carradine's Kung Fu and James Best's The Dukes of Hazzard. Fuller and London's co-stars on Emergency were previously unfamiliar actors, Randolph Mantooth as Johnny Gage and Kevin Tay as Roy DeSoto, both playing paramedics. The cast got along great with Fuller and London during its first season, as a mid-season replacement in 1971, 1972, and despite the competition of CBS's All in the Family, Emergency became a hit, and NBC renewed the show for the 1972-1973 season. It remained on the air for the next 5 years. In the 6th year of Emergency, in 1976, Fuller appearances had been reduced because he was very unhappy with the direction the show was going. Right at the same time, he was looking for westerns. In 1977, after a 6-season run, Emergency was put on hiatus, despite good ratings, and was eventually cancelled in 1979, after 8.5 seasons and 134 episodes. In 1986, the entire Emergency cast appeared on ABC's Good Morning America. In the 1980s and 1990s, Fuller played supporting roles in more than 20 television shows, including The Love Boat, The Fall Guy, Murder, She Wrote, Matt Houston, Tour of Duty, The Adventures of Briscoe County, Jr., JAG, and Diagnosis, Murder, an episode which reunited his ex-Emergency co-star, Randolph Mantooth, which talked about the Malibu fires that was used as a reference of Emergency. Toward the end of his acting career, he had a recurring role as Jess's supposed great-great-grandson, Wade Harper, before and on the last episode of Walker, Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris and Clarence Gilliard. He also played another character on the same series that made Norris's character, a Texas Ranger, after being a bounty hunter, before being cast as Wade.